Yeah, this is a little heads up before we get started. Make sure you go and subscribe. That's the call to action right there. All the Killa Kela podcast links are all in the desirable areas. SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes. Make sure it happens. Enjoy the show, people.
Tom's gone, "Si, what are you doing? Like, why don't you just sing it in your own voice?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" Like, you know, because at the time, you know, and I thought, well, and I guess madness must have popped in my head.
Killa Kela podcast. KillaKelaOfficial.com.
THTC, the UK's leading ethical streetwear label. Organically grown and ethically built garments from hemp, organic cotton and other sustainable materials. 2019 is their 20th anniversary year. Join me with THTC as a Killa Kela podcast sponsor celebrating music, social activism, hemp and street culture. THTC, eco-fashion redefined since 1999. Beatbox created.
Killa Kela.
And we're here to talk about world music and street culture.
Killa Kela podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Killa Kela podcast reporting to you live from central London, or as central as you need to be. Big shout out to our sponsors, Graffiti Kings. Subscribe, share, spread to your friends. Do not sleep, I repeat, do not sleep on this repeat, all right? Inside the ride is a gentleman that, one of two gentlemen of a collective which have been around my radar alongside me like battleships, and we've just been, it's only a matter of time we was meant to buck. It's Simon from Audio Bullies.
Yes. Good to meet you, man.
How are you? You good, yeah?
Yeah, I'm good, bro. Good,
Yeah,
good.
it's down there, yeah.
It's a nice sunny day, so I can't complain.
Complaints?
It's been a bit grey the last few days before that. So
Is that gentrification, do you think? Not gentrification, global warming? Everything's gentrification, by the way.
Global warming, yeah. I mean, man, global warming. I mean, you got to think, man. The world was on fire at one point, and then you had the ice age, and it was completely iced over. So, I'm not a scientist, man, but I'm sure like what they're talking about has got some substance behind it. Yeah. But what I'm also saying is, if the world was once totally on fire and then once totally ice, maybe, you know, we haven't got control of what happens anyway.
Yeah, maybe it's a massive forecast.
Not to say that is, you know, not real, because there's a lot of proof.
Yeah, we're aiding the situation.
Yeah, I mean, even just for ourselves, though, all this petrol and stuff, man, you know, my kids breathing that in. I don't like it, me breathing it in, you know, but it is what it is, isn't it, man? Apparently someone built a car that ran on water once and the American government killed him.
Oh, yeah, I heard about this. Yeah,
George Lamb told me that, so it might not be true.
No, but I've heard such things. There's this, and also the upward propelled, you know, UFO style, off the ground, kind of, it was almost like the outward Hoover kind of thing, where it kind of span itself off the ground and it was able to do the whole...
Like a hovercraft.
Yeah,
right.
But in the air. I mean, I think that was manufactured by the Germans in the Second World War or something. So these things are...
All sorts of madness.
All sorts of madness. Where'd you come from? Whereabouts?
Richmond.
Richmond, yeah?
Yeah, southwest London.
Easy journey?
Just took the train down from there to here to Kensal, man. 5 stops, so not far at all. It's like a 15-minute train ride.
Kind of your neck of the woods, really, isn't
Similar, yeah. A little bit more west here. We're southwest out there, and a little bit further out the city, you know. Yeah. But on the Thames there.
Yeah, nice rural. Yeah, big up the water crew, you know. Like people that are just...
Up the river, man.
It's all about that.
I have to live near the river. When I was living east, I felt kind of disconnected from it, man. Yeah.
East is great when you're, you know, mid-20s and you're just like super impressionable and just up for going out every night. You'll suffer in silence for the quality and standards.
For me, yeah, I listen. I love it over there, and like when I moved over there, I needed a change. I was bored of being out in the suburbs, and that was just starting to feel a bit quiet. And I'd, you know, as much as I've been touring the world, I hadn't like really left the area, so I'd be gone for long periods of time. I never went to uni or any of that, so I thought, let me get over there. So it was about 10 years ago now. I moved right into the centre of it in Shoreditch. Didn't sleep for a year.
Yeah. This is what I'm saying. This is what's so silly, is like, because I was around there at that time.
Yeah.
We've literally been like moving components, but like rarely locking in.
Yeah. Same places, but...
Yeah. Reviews on albums. Like, I remember when Generation came out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That
Well, he's got panned a fair bit, to be fair.
There's some gold on there. There was some gold.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah,
for real.
yeah. But
That's my favourite. To be fair, I think I liked.
Yeah, it's interesting because everyone goes on about the first one, but then there's a few people that love the second one. But it's like the Rolling Stones album. Exile on Main Street got absolutely slated. Now the critics claim it to be, they put it there as one of the Stones' best records. So don't believe everything you read, kids.
Don't believe the hype.
Don't believe the hype.
Don't believe the hype. There's a documentary about Exile on Main Street, wasn't there? There was a wicked documentary about the making of that as well.
About
the Rolling Stones.
Yeah, I watched that. Brilliant doc.
Fire.
Yeah. Love that doc, man.
The interesting about that doc was it was all pictures pretty much. There was nothing else but collage pictures.
A lot of video footage, and I mean, it was like just the whole story behind it that they, they were about to get hit with such a big tax bill that it would have bankrupted them.
Oh yeah,
so they did one to France and made this, hired this mad mansion on the coast and made this record. And they were down in a basement, recorded it all in this sweaty basement with no aircon. And just, if you look at the pictures from it, it was like rock and roll excess at the point where the bubble was about to burst. And that's what they say in the doc. All of that,
In fact, when I think excess rock and roll, there is a snapshot that comes into mind, which is those basement shots that are in the doc.
Yeah, and they didn't start recording till 1 a.m.
Shit like that. Yeah, come down when you want and then go to bed as late as you want. And it was that kind of like revolving door of people like constantly coming back and forth and shit, wasn't it?
Fat Jack the Chef.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
I've watched it a lot of times, man.
The fucking guy with the tambourine, he ends up in the band and shit like that because there's just so many of them.
Yeah, and there's this guy that goes to like drop them some bits and bobs and then like never leaves. Basically, ends up staying there for the whole recording process. Yeah.
Oh shit! I mean, what's the recording process like for you guys?
Well, it all started in the bedroom, we were just getting bits and bobs in and doing it off of Logic. Tom bought an MPC 3000. Yeah. And, he came to my house with the MPC 3000. He built what was the backing track of We Don't Care, like our first big single. And we're like, let's put some vocals on. And then we're like, we haven't got a mic. So there's this karaoke singer lived opposite me. This geezer Matt. He used to do karaoke in the local pub, the Marlborough. And we're like, Matt, you got a mic? Yeah. Just like, I might even have shouted out the window, just knocked at the door. He was always in the front garden. Like. And he's like, it's a bit of a shitty cordless one. And that was it. Yeah, we recorded We Don't Care. The first vocal we ever put down together, that.
And you never recorded it with the new mic?
No. Tom started putting in like delays on it and all of that stuff, and the magic was there. I don't think it would have sounded any better on a Neumann or whatever. I think the charm was the grit of it.
The charm of it. Yeah. How long had you known each other prior to that?
Since we started secondary school. Well, since I started, he was 2 years above me. We went to a school called Greycourt, which is in a little place called Ham, in between Richmond and Kingston.
So you've always been south like that? You've always been...
Yeah, Tom was Kingston, I was Richmond,
That's awesome. Yeah. That's fire.
And, so I've known him, we were pals. Well, we weren't for a long time, he was a bit older and... I don't know if we always got on, truth be told. I think there was a little bit of like... I think he thought I was a bit of a mouthy little shit, which I probably was.
That's the friction that makes the music, though,
It is, but then, like Vizzo was a very tight friend. We had a lot of friends in common. He used to come and buy drawers off me, and that I think...
Who Vizzo did?
No, well, Vizzo and Tom. Soon, a period... Because Vizzo moved to Dulwich, and, his mum moved out of North Sheen, which is like on the outskirts of Richmond, and I couldn't get my head around it. I was like, Vizzo's a skank, why has he left the area, but it was, he had to. So he went to live with his sister in Dulwich and started writing with, he got very up at that point, when we were slowing down.
Rest in peace, Vizzo, man.
Yeah, rest in peace, Vizzo.
He was
and
like,
pause, man.
Yeah, bro. Those were my childhood right there. You know what I mean?
But Tom and Viz used to come and knock up at mine in the morning and get a drawer, and then we'd go and chill in the sun.
Nice, yeah.
I miss that geezer.
Yeah. Top boy. So when it comes to like your sound, and I've kind of got to throw it out there because I can hear your influences, and obviously as a brand you can see the influences. From
I can hear that with Pete artists as well. I can tell
Yeah.
what they've been listening to a lot of the time.
100%.
Yeah.
And another thing I love about the Audio Bullies is you know what you're getting involved with because the branding is so prominent. It's like you're really dealing with like the aesthetics first, and then you know what you're getting. And I would argue that you guys really did, in my opinion, epitomise like a real 360 of electronic music in a way. Do you know what I mean? It felt like everything, and you were kind of like, you didn't dip your feet too close into one genre. You were just like really like strong in your own sound. And do you know what I mean?
I think we found the formula and we ran with it. You know, we were coming out of like, I was producing garage music. Tom was doing sort of more masters at worky style house, which is we'd come out of. But me being that bit younger, I got more caught up in the UK garage thing. But that sound was drying up for me. It had become pop, you know, where it had gone from this raw, bassline heavy, very underground, not too many vocals, a lot of chopped up vocals. Just something raw and very non-mainstream. Yeah. Suddenly it was charting, which, don't get me wrong, was a beautiful thing for a lot of people. Yeah. But by the end of it, and you know, these tunes were good, but I was standing there and it felt light and poppy. Yeah. And I was just like, right, I've had enough of this. Yeah. And we sort of, it's interesting because when we first did Top of the Pops, they said, out of the flames of UK garage, out of the car crash of UK garage, emerged Audio Bullies. And I remember thinking, what are they on about? But they were right. That's what we were listening to, you know. But we sort of, you know, it's like grime emerged out of kids being fed up with the poppiness. I think in our ends, we sort of created our own little sort of mad punky crossover of you know, there was house beats in it, but you know, a lot of it sounded like punk, I guess, and like influences of all sorts in it.
100%. Stanton Warriors also, I remember being quite garage influenced.
Well, that was Dominic B and Mark Yardley, and they made some made some big tunes.
I mean, they only lived down there. I mean, they were they're another kind of within our paddock of time when we were putting out stuff. Stanton Warriors were always
they were about. I remember doing parties in pool parties in Ibiza with them, and I remember doing one carnival. There was a guy, James Pitt, that signed us to Source on Virgin. And he put a rave on one carnival, and it was us, Stanton's, John Carter, doesn't DJ anymore.
Wow.
I bumped into him, funnily enough, in the West End a little while ago, man. Yeah.
It's crazy, isn't it? It's the circles in which we roll in. It really just like, it cements you within a time. And we were saying before VT how like, when you come from a genre, or when you come from a scene, you always get kind of, you always like rite to passage. You can always go back to that scene and be a part of a community. And even when you're on your lowest and you don't have a record out, or you haven't got the kudos that you know you had of a peak of a time, there's still that solidarity.
Yeah, your bread and your roots, man. Yeah. Well, like I was saying to you, like about like when it had gone quiet for us with graffiti, you know, we always. Sorry, not with graffiti. When it had gone quiet for us with the music, if ever I went to a place where there was a load of Graff writers, you know, that's where I'd still have people that hadn't forgotten about the tunes we'd made and was still. In fact, I remember meeting Asset, and him, you know, meeting loads of people, man. But he was a nice guy, man. Rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace. That's it. Yeah, man. And we'll definitely get into the Graff thing, because that is just a whole nother beast. Around that time of like you coming up, I mean, there was a lot of. I'm now talking about your vocal, your sound, because I don't know anybody else that has. And I know this might be a bit kind of controversial, but when I think of the Streets, I think of the Twang. You remember that band, the Twang?
Were they from up north?
I think they were, but they had a real maybe
not like, Black Twang.
No, not Black Twang. The Twang. There was a band called the Twang, and they had a kind of real regional kind of dialect and tone.
Rings
to
a bell. I remember Black Twang.
Black Twang. Yeah, that was more rap.
That was UK hip hop.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, like you really did champion the classic kind of British London accent voice within the dance genre. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I've got to credit Tom a lot for that, you know, because I remember we were doing We Don't Care, and the truth is, you know, we were listening to a lot of Daft Punk, which I'd always seen as a bit commercial, but I remember one night with Vizzo, my mate C's, another geezer, Lewis, a skater, and Tom, and we all took pills and sat in C's bedroom, and we listened to the second Daft Punk album, and, you know, from beginning to end, and always those songs will remind me of Vizzo, but it was... I sort of learnt to get into that and realise how talented they were. And you know, when you're young, you sort of don't rate anything that's in the charts in a way. You've got this whole underground mentality, but that was me going, all right, this is, you know, it don't matter whether it's been number one in the charts or whatever. It's
the shit.
This is good quality music. But so we were kind of, Tom was chopping stuff up and filtering it, and it was like disco-y, you know, guitar samples and stuff. So in my head, like, I'm like, yeah, I want to try and sing a vocal, and I'm going in there singing it a bit like Daft Punk, you know, which must have sounded terrible, you know, because the charm of them is that they had this, as much as they were singing kind of in American accents, they were singing in, you could hear this little French element, and they get a few words wrong, which gave it this charm.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's me trying to copy that, and Tom's gone, Si, what are you doing? Like, why don't you just sing it in your own voice? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you know, because at the time, you know, and I thought, well, and I guess madness must have popped in my head. I thought, who can I reference? Because you're always looking for, you're finding your sound through other people, you know, not copying, but drawing influence. So I thought, madness, I guess that's a London style
100%.
singing.
Nailed it, yeah.
And then we put that in, and it just... I wasn't even aware of how we were doing it, but when we listened back and put a delay on it, and then we kind of switched a bit up and took a different backing track to what we'd sung it to and put that over it, like Tom being a DJ, straight away took it like an a cappella, and we were just like, whoa, you know, we surprised ourselves. I've always got to thank Tom for telling me
to do it,
not to try and sing like Daft Punk.
Hey, listen, that happened with Cypress Hill, from what I understand. When I saw this documentary, and apparently, like Muggs gave him like one more shot, and he was just like, change your voice, you know what I mean? So him and Sendog went away, and then he did that whole high thing, and then he came back, and it was like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, what he brought in the Mexican sound.
Yeah, that kind of higher range voice.
I've heard there's a lot of stories like this, because I've been working with Riton. You know, Riton, he made that Rinse and Repeat track.
Oh Christ!
You know the
one. I don't know him though.
You know the track, right?
Yeah.
So that girl, he said she was singing American as well, and she's got like an British African accent, and he said just do it like that.
That's
and
it. Yeah,
that was a big hit as well. So
absolutely,
it's about being yourself, isn't it? I suppose.
There's a lot to be said about, like, even now, like, you can take an a cappella of something you've done and then replace the beat, and then it turns in, I mean, remix, quote unquote, but to be honest, what's the diff? If people never heard it before.
It's all a creation, man. Salt and Pepper, Push It, that was a remix.
Was it?
Yeah, no one knows what the original sounded like, and apparently Salt and Pepper hated it.
No way.
Yeah, I bet they don't now.
Yeah, I bet they don't now. Jesus.
Yeah, man.
That was like a childhood like tune that I remember where I was when I watched that. I must have been about 8 years old or something, and I felt dirty and scared, like hearing that synth.
It was just gritty, yeah. It was
Gritty
new,
as
it was fresh, man. But yeah, exactly. Me and you are a similar age, so it's like that was a school disco banger.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That was some of your dad's AC/DC or some shit.
Yeah, that was all mad, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know what they would about the outfits and that. But...
yeah, it's a madness, isn't it?
Yeah, but no, more.
Did you grow up on hip hop?
Yeah, I mean, the first hip hop tune that I ever heard or remember having on the tape was, I had a Christmas tape, and it was Run DMC, Christmas in Hollis.
Oh Jesus! Yeah.
I remember sitting on the bus just rewinding the tape back to that spot. I didn't want to hear any other tune. It just sounded fresh. But before that, obviously, you know, I mean, God, I hate to say it, but Ice Ice Baby, man. Do you know? Was that before that? No, it was probably just after that, to be fair. But everyone our age knows all the words to that song.
Everyone that was Do the Bartman or MC Hammer or something.
Do the Bartman, MC Hammer, Can't Touch This. But I think the first decent hip hop album I remember like having and getting properly into would have been. It was probably everyone was into NWA and Public Enemy, and I caught a piece of that, but I don't think I was even managing to get my hands on the albums. But my mate recorded me the Snoop Dogg's first album, and that blew my mind.
But that's the same as me, because like the NWA tape, I must have got like a 4th generation copy when someone just let me borrow it.
Yeah, the older kids had it.
Yeah, the older kids had it.
And you know, if your mum had got near it, she wasn't letting you listen because it was just filth, wasn't it?
Yeah, bro. Like those headphones went down a little bit lower, just just in the car. No one's hearing shit. Were you out the borough like to be able to receive those like more hip hop based radio stations, like the Capitals and the?
Yeah, I mean, truth be told, like there was a hip hop stage. Then it was like. Nirvana and The Cure and all that. There was a big following of that, which was cool. But I still love The Cure and I still love Nirvana. But it was very The Cure British, but it was all Nirvana was quite depressing. Yeah. And to me, like when I discovered Prodigy and all that, it was like the answer and going to raves.
100%.
So we kind of fell out of hip hop and we were listening to hardcore and jungle for a long, long period. And when I really, it was Biggie that got me back into it, and Wu-Tang, and then Dre and Eminem and all that, and that all of that kind of, that brought me back to us. Yeah, there was a period, when you're like in your teens and you're
trying to find your feet. Yeah.
Well, no, we'd found our feet, and that was in dance. We didn't call it dance music; we called it hardcore at first. Then when jungle went stale, we discovered house, which sort of took us to house and garage.
How did you? Because that's an interesting thing. Because I don't know if you remember this, but there was this point when in the music scene when it went from hardcore, happy hardcore, and then the Room 2, which was drum and bass, jungle. He split.
I remember them coming around doing surveys, asking us. There was this rave we all went to called Teen Rage. And it was out in Tolworth. It was mad. It was a proper rave, And that was when the early days, the two scenes hadn't split yet. So it was all the LTJ Bookham tunes, Ace and Prodigy, and it was a mixture. And then it just started to segregate off. Yeah. And, happy hardcore became like, in the end, like trance or it became like gabba.
That's right. Yeah, really fucking hard stuff.
And jungle was the thing, the jungle took over for us.
It was almost like the Kenny Kens and the Jumpin' Jack Frosts and the Groove Riders and Fabios, where they were doing...
And Carl Cox was in all that in them times. Yeah. And I've heard that, he found his way into techno, do you know what I mean? Which was the right route, clearly. But
he just kept to his guns, really.
He kept to his guns, but apparently there was a point when all the jungle... I might be getting this wrong.
Don't quote us on this, okay?
Can't remember who I heard it off, but I heard that the jungle lot stopped wanting to book him because he was mixing up. He was playing sort of right across the board. Do you know what I mean? He obviously could feel where he, was headed somewhere different to that.
But I can imagine that, especially when you look at the way that it's played out ever since. It's like there is this real kind of there are this, and then there is Carl Cox. You know what I mean? Like there really is like a whole.
Well, he found Ibiza, I think, and
didn't look back.
Yeah, he's a legend, man. I've got massive ratings for that guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And with Prodigy and that, like, they really were, they did epitomise all rooms, at any given time, you know what I mean?
Look, the mad thing is, Prodigy, they were the ones that turned it into an act because it was all faceless, it was all on vinyl. So there was this guy, Asen, who I always thought was British, but like I've been listening to a lot of his stuff, Trip to the Moon 1, Trip to the Moon 2. Turns out he was American.
What genre is this?
This is hardcore, early jungle, more like what you'd call very Prodigy-esque sound.
Yeah.
It turns out he's an American guy, which is weird. But he was probably at one time, you'd probably hear more of his tunes in a set than you would Prodigy.
Yeah.
He might be in the way with before internet and all that. He probably didn't even know how big he was here.
Wow.
Because he weren't getting booked.
Damn.
It was one of those mad things. But He has recently released some stuff, but there was a lot of people that were sort of Liam and Keith, God rest his soul.
Yeah,
man.
God rest his fucking soul, for real.
And Maxim and the rest of them. They really did a good job of turning it into something that could be taken to the main stage, man, and full respect for that, man.
Billion percent, So moving on into your through your childhood, parents still together?
No. They split when I was 7.
7,
which was a big change for me. But an important one, man, because it was chaos. In the house. Dad was fucking drinking far too much, which he quit when Mum kicked him out. It was sad. You don't really know it at the time, but what it did give me was just like complete freedom. So from the age of basically 12, as soon as I was big enough to look after myself, we were out doing what we wanted all day and all night, man. And partying, racking paint, graphing, doing yards, all the usual stuff, but from a real young age, man. But I have no regrets about it, man. I met people like Omen, Plot, Funk, Offer, and we all started GFS, man.
GFS, bro.
And Vega and Stay and all these boys.
Bro, I remember all of those names coming up because obviously I'm from Crawley way, so coming up through
A-Key Touch. I got to give them all shouts.
Old tight crew, Well, let's get into this. So you were a writer. Then GFS, there was the Spars, there was the people that used to roll with.
Yeah, they were our family. Where family life had sort of, it had changed for me. Not to say it wasn't. My mum was. She was great, man. She was solid, but she had to go out and work. I was like, at a loose end a lot of the time, and I needed people to, rely on and that. So
peers, you needed, people to fuck with. I get it. I like the idea, like with Audio Bullies, the way that the music is quite. It's got a diverse sound. It's not afraid to dip its toes in. I think with Graff, like there isn't. There was this stereotype, especially in early days, where it's like, it's electro hip hop kind of thing. It's been attached to that in the scene, but as it kind of made its way across like the world, it didn't matter what music you were listening to with Graff. It's like it's just this thing that is an art form, and it's of its own thing. It doesn't matter what music it is, and I think that really translates with the Audio Bullies as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was watching the one you did with Drax and that, and he was talking about, PFB and how they were like West London rave kids, and we were like really, they, Roza lived in our area, and he was like the Godfather, man. I'll never forget seeing him walking down Kew Gardens platform. Me and Omen always talk about this. Walking down Kew Gardens platform, which is where we'd all hang about and bomb trains and get drunk and all that, and a blonde on each arm, Armani's, Reebok Classics, and a Ralphie or whatever, and a shaved head. It was just like a film to us. We were like, that guy's so fucking cool, and he became our friend. And he'd always wind us up like, "Where's your pen? You call yourself a writer."
I hear stories about this geezer, man. I swear,
Roz is a legend, man. I bumped into him on Richmond River the other day, and we were in many ways a follow-on from them.
Oh, right, yeah.
So you had we were when we were out painting at our peak. Yeah, we were listening to hardcore and jungle, and then house and garage. That was the soundtrack to what we were doing at the time. Whereas if you talk to DDS, there would have been a lot of that, a lot of jungle with them as well. But there was definitely probably a point where it was more hip hop orientated. Yeah. But then to be honest with you, it was Vizzo and these lot BSE. Where we were a bit younger than them. Me, Omen, Plot and Offer and Funk were all listening to hardcore and jungle. I remember this night, BSE and GFS met at Vizzo's house. It was like a special meeting of two groups of people. And I just remember we weren't listening to Wu-Tang, but what was the one? The one with Method Man at the beginning with the horn. I remember
Jesus
that.
Christ, that just
kicked in loud.
Tune's fire,
and that's where we started listening to Wu-Tang and all of that stuff. And
that's when it all changed.
what were they called? The ones Halfway Crooks and all them.
Mobb Deep.
Yeah, all of that. That kind of, it's all waves, isn't it? But that, that came in and sort of started influencing us again. Yeah.
Just on a side note, what happened to Mace? Like Mace used to be all around.
Mace, the one that did all the panels.
MACE. Do you remember? Yeah, because
I wasn't really painting at the time he came around, but I remember seeing a lot of his work. I believe a lot of it was done in parcels, man.
Yeah, that's right. A lot. He was.
Someone I know knows him. I can't remember who it was, but someone was talking about him recently. You never know, man. You never know when one of these people are going to come out of the woodwork again, or never.
That shit would be dangerous. Like
certain writers that just don't want to know.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? Is it just like age or? Kind of.
Yeah, there's times you could have asked me and I said I didn't want to know. No, I'd never lost interest in it, but there's the times when I say, nah, I'm never going to be a grapher again.
Really?
And then a big change comes around in your life, and you need it. I needed it. It was like, for me, it was like, if I can walk out and do it, I could feel at my very lowest, like shit, I've got to get out. I go out and put a few tags up, or just get that adrenaline pumping again. I feel alive again, man. And just to see it, it's kind of a reminder of like,
who you are.
I'm here. Yeah. Just telling yourself.
Yeah.
But then what happens is other people start putting tags next to your tags, and before you know it, it's like early social media.
Yeah, for real.
Caveman
it's the
social media
set up, isn't it?
Well, and then you're like, I've been seeing you. You're almost talking to some kid you haven't seen for years through tags, and you bump into him somewhere. Oh yeah, sorry, I've been looking for you. Yeah, and it's
pen pals for real.
Pen pals, yeah. But it's like it's a very social thing, Graff.
Yeah.
Like you watch Drax. If you watch Drax in Kings and Toys, and he's saying, I didn't really have any pals. I've seen a lot of people saying it. Didn't really have any pals, and then as soon as I'd done that, I'd become someone. And I did have mates before, but I made the friends that I still see now. A lot of them, a big percentage of them came through Graff.
There's very few documentaries which I could transcribe in my head word for word. You know what I mean? It's like that's one of those documentaries. I always go on about it especially in the Graff podcast.
Kings and Toys. Yeah.
I mean, that must have been
I watched it. Was it last night? No, the night before. Yeah. Well, look, Style Wars was Subway Art was the book that like everyone says, the Bible, cliche but true.
True, yeah.
And then Style Wars, which I didn't get to see till a lot later.
Me neither. I'm exactly the same. I think I saw Kings and Toys before I saw Style Wars.
I might have as well. But the thing with Kings and Toys is, what's the most memorable lines in that?
Well, Iron
is always the standout. Out to Iron.
Yeah,
always. Iron's the standout in that. But then Zom and them, I was watching, you got Cos talking in it.
Yeah, that was just a level. I remember it's like, man.
And Teach talking in it. Yeah. It's
that's
Elk.
Yeah,
it's the UK Style Wars.
Yeah,
isn't it?
It's the who's. Yeah, I mean, I got that'd be a good fucking podcast. Talking to the director of that.
I wonder who did make it.
Is it Skeg? I'll have to have a look at the thing again. I can't remember. But yeah, it takes you places, Graff, doesn't it? Once you get into the.
It's the original. It's the first art form. And I think, I can't remember, it's Zaki D or Mode 2. One of them says it in, I don't know if it's in Kings and Toys, but he says, what's the first thing a kid does if you give him a pen? Him or her a pen? And they've not been taught, they walk up to the wall. So we've just been taught we shouldn't do it. But it's a beautiful thing, man, and it's something anyone can make a name out of, without any money, and we go all over England without a penny, and we rack everything we need.
Come on, ma, please.
Syringes, water fight hinges. We love food for cats we hit 20. Oh look, now watch them on them brain now.
Killa Kela Fortified featuring Patoine. Available on all good music platforms now.
AG Dentistry. In my line of work, not only does what I do with the mouth get reviewed, it's also my instrument. And it's beyond important to me that my teeth get the professional service they deserve. The The AG family provide expert dentistry, whether it's NHS or cosmetic. They're the finest in London. Head over to agdentistry.co.uk for more information on treatments and prices. AG Dentistry.